everybody, so today I'm going to be showing you how to use selection tools and how to cut things out of an image. So I linked an image of apples for you guys on Google Classroom. You go into File, after you download it, of course, you go to File, Open, and then find the apples. Here I have mine. When I clicked and opened, it opened up in a new file like so. You could see I could pull the file out or pull it back in here, which will be different from our previous tutorial with the regular old layers. Now this opened up as an image in Photoshop. It opens up as a background image with a little lock on it. The lock looks like this. So once your layer is opened up and you try to do anything to it and it's locked, it doesn't really work because the layer is locked. So I'm going to click on the little lock to unlock it. All right, so let us begin. We learned some toolbar stuff last time. Let's learn how to select things. Below the move tool, we have the marquee tools, rectangle, ellipse, and then the single row and single column. Don't worry about those. Let's grab the rectangular tool, and all you do with this is you can select a rectangle, or if you hold down Shift, while you drag it, it makes a perfect square. If you let go of Shift, then you can make a rectangle again. So once I have a rectangle on here, I can move it around and place it wherever I want, but nothing's happening. What you have to do is actually click on Move. And now you can move whatever you selected in that rectangle. Once you're happy with what you moved, you press Control D to deselect. As you could see, Control D to deselect. All right, now I want to put this back in place. I'm going to press Control Alt Z to undo, and I could keep pressing it to keep going back a step. Control Alt Z. I put this up here just so everybody can remember these, because these are super useful functions that you will use constantly. So that is the rectangle. All right. Now I want to deselect it. I press Control D right up here. Control D to deselect. Now let's grab the ellipse. So like, let's say I want to select this apple. I'm going to make it roughly the same size. I'm going to try to put it right on the inside. All right, there I got this apple somewhat selected. I'm going to grab my move tool, and now I could shift it any way I want. It's not perfect though. I'm not really that excited about it, but what you can do is you can copy this selection by pressing Control C, make a new layer, and then Control V to paste. And if I turn this off, you guys will see I pasted that apple into a different layer, which is really nice because, you know, you might want to copy certain objects. And then, you know, as you guys could see, I can rotate it. I can resize it. I could play with it because my transform controls are on while I am on this layer. All right, but I don't want this right now. I'm going to delete this layer. First of all, I have to press Enter because I resized it. I'm going to delete this layer and then turn this back on. And I'm going to undo Control Z and get everything back into place. Control Alt Z to get everything back. All right, so that was the rectangular and ellipse. It's literally a rectangular and circle. I use these all the time. These are really fantastic. The next selection tool we have is the lasso, polygonal, and magnetic. The lasso tool is literally you sitting there and drawing what you want selected. It's not my favorite because it's really hard to make a perfect line around something, and then grabbing the move tool. Not my favorite. Control D to deselect. But you can use it if you want to do something fast. After that is the polygonal. This makes straight lines. It does not make curves. This is great if you have something geometric that you might want to cut out, like a square or a chair or something. Double click to meet the line. Now that is selected. and I use my move tool, and you guys could see it is not clean. So not my favorite to use for these. And then finally, we have the magnetic lasso. The magnetic lasso, you just click once, and then without clicking, it drags and it's able to find the outline. And the reason why it's able to find it is because the background is white, and it's really nice and easy for it because it's a white background. Oh, you see I went off of here. Also, not my favorite. Some people really like these. I don't. Once I get back, I have to find that little square, click, and as you guys could see, I'm gonna click apply. When I move it, I still have this white part because, I don't know, it wasn't perfect. So I'm not a fan of the magnetic. I'm not a fan of any of these. If you are, that's great if they work for you. But for me, I rather use these two, and that is the quick selection and the magic wand. My absolute favorite is the quick selection. This really works if you have a stark background. If the background was red, just like these apples, it would be a lot more difficult. But as you guys could see, I just click and drag. Photoshop is smart, and it picked out the apples perfectly. Because it's set on plus up here, I could add this apple, and then I could add this apple. And then all I do is take my move, and it's pretty clean and perfect in the way that it cut them out. Control Z, Control D. So that is the quick selection tool. It's exactly what it says it is. It's quick. The next one, which is also really great, is the magic wand tool. This is all about tolerance. So as you guys could see, my tolerance up top is 85. So if I click on the apples, it selects everything that's close to red. It's not going to select the green or the white areas. If I put my tolerance, I don't know, let's say 100, and I click the white, obviously all the white selected because that was easy. But if I click on the apple, it only selects these areas. So it's all about tolerance. Now, let's say if I only wanted to get like, I don't know, 8%. This is 8% tolerance. It's only going to select what's closest in 8 pixels to each other, meaning 8 pixels inside the color wheel in order to, you know, get that color just right. It still works on the white because the white is all exactly the same, but it's not as tight. And the reason why it's not so tight, and we use our zoom key, let's go to plus, is because if you look at the color, and we're gonna get closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, it's not perfectly white, because if we look at the pixels here, we've got some grays in here, and not just white. Now, if I took my tolerance to my magic wand and turned it up to 90, and then I clicked on this again, you see how it gets a lot tighter, maybe almost too tight, and it's going into our apple. It looks good when you zoom out, but when you zoom in, it's just, you know, it's just a little bit too much. So I always, you know, say you got to kind of figure out your tolerance as you go along with this. So these are my two favorite, quick selection and magic wand. Now, some of you might say, all right, cool, you selected the background. Now what? Hey, I get to delete the background. Make sure you have the background selected. And now I have a white background. I can make a new layer. I can use, I don't know, maybe my gradient tool. Whoop. Let's put that back where it belongs. I'm going to use my gradient tool, and I am just going to click and drag. And as you guys could see, because it was selected, it's around the apples. I don't want that. I'm going to press Control Z, and I want the whole thing to be behind the apple. So I'm going to press Control D to deselect, so nothing is selected, and now I'm going to click and drag. So I made this like a nice gradient, but I'm going to take this and put it underneath the apples, and now I've got my apples on top of my background. Looks beautiful, and my text is in a different layer, so if I want to move this around, I can. Here's my apples, move that around. Here's my other layer with the background. So it's no longer a white background. Pretty nifty. You could change your backgrounds behind items. It looks really nice that way. So let's say I'm going to press Control Alt Z, and let's say I'm going to get my white background back. There, I got it back. I'm going to press Control D to deselect. And I'm going to select quick selection. I got my background selected. Now let's say I don't want my background selected, I want my apples selected, but it's easier to select the background first. All you gotta do is go to select and click inverse. And now the apples are selected and I can delete them. Control Z to get them back. I can copy them and you could go to edit, copy, which is Control C, create a new layer, edit, paste. And now if I turn off that bottom layer, here are my apples. You guys could see they're here. And then my underneath apples are with the white background original. I could turn them off and then just play around with this. And then once again, I can resize them. Press enter once you're done. And there are my apples with no background. Make a new layer. I don't know, create your gradient, put it underneath. And then once again, we have a different background behind our apples. So that is the 3 selection tools that we learned today that are super useful, and you guys will be using them a lot in this class. There is a refine tool for when you're cutting out hair that I will teach you guys at a later time, but you do not need to worry about it right now. If anybody has any questions, please email me and let me know.